Hello, everyone, and welcome to another World of Sasquatch. Today's show is being recorded on 2/14/25. We're here with Brian Tseng again of Full Disclosure Movement.org, and we are here to do a Sasquatch Q&A this evening. This is actually going to be a very interesting episode. This is more not necessarily just impromptu, but the person that is channeling tonight is one we've never spoken to. So, Joanna, if you want to do the law of one, and then we can open the circle.
We are all one, and when one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, that only the highest good be done. We pray for you, your friends, your family, your loved ones to let healing energies in. Let them love you, let them nourish you, and let them bring you to your highest good. We ask for benevolence now with no conflicting agenda to come in and be with us, be it passed on loved ones, be it benevolent galactic races, be it elementals, anyone that would like to join us and support these efforts with no conflicting agenda, to feel free to come in now. And then we ask for malevolent or mischievous beings to be escorted out right now so that this conversation may be had in peace. And with that, and with great blessings that we always send your way, we say, so be it.
So be it. All right, and I just noticed that we look like just shoulder busts right there on the screen. So I noticed we looked weird. It was like looked like midgets on the screen there, so I had to pull that back. Okay.
Okay.
So the forest person I have here today and his friends, his name is Radami, and he was insistent on being he just put it had me put in the margins Thursday show or Friday show, and he said he is from Western Mississippi, and an ambassador to the forest people. There's one we met in Arizona by the name of Kiosa. He said he was in an ambassadorial role as well. There in Arizona, around in the Sedona area. Fairly popular one because other channelers have also spoken to Kiosa as well. So I just happened to run into him from another channeler that was already channeling him, and he approached me as well. So Radami is the same as him, but for Mississippi. I seem to be getting them all up the eastern seaboard, from the swamps of the bayou all the way up into Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Maine, all of them, and up into Nova Scotia. All of them, I seem to be getting them all those. So up the coast, and the ones in Arizona said they'd be contacting all of them for us up the coast, and they weren't kidding. So we'll just go right into Q&A here. Okay, Radami. Before we begin, how old are you exactly? I want to make sure I get that. Let's see. You're not 12. Okay, let me see. Let's see. Oh, 120. Okay. I thought he was joking around there for a minute. Thought he said 12. I'm like, no, you don't look like a 12-year-old. Okay. All right. Okay. Radami? Sorry about the cough. And yes, I know the feet are awesome. Yes, he said the channel, but he thought it was cool. So, oh, they want you to grab a bus that's behind here. I was wondering why they were stopping. Okay,
Yeah, I have a bust here too.
yeah, yeah, they absolutely love those. And soon I'll show people on these shows some bigger ones that we have. We have some that are about here and bigger ones about here. So I have a few of each made. Uh, they're hijacking Broston's bust at the moment and using this one. So he doesn't need it right now. Yes. Okay. All right. Okay. Ooh. Greetings. Yes. My name is Rididame, and I am a forest person from Western Mississippi. I travel through the boundaries between the what you would call the deep South states or deep Southern states, passing through Mississippi in from Louisiana into and also Alabama and a little bit into Florida. I was actually present. You didn't sense my presence at the 2024 conference. You were at because of our let's just say our enormous busts that we have that were at the conference. Several of us were present that you didn't sense, and I've actually been further down into even southern Florida in my travels. I'm 120 years old, uh, and I have mainly hung out, let's say, in the near the place of my birth, which is in the part of Mississippi that I mentioned. There, it's nothing but wilderness in the section where I'm at, currently transmitting from. I'm using a how can I put this? A quartz crystal cluster underground. I'm using this to transmit to you at the moment, very much like you are using this foot with the quartz in it to pacify any intense energies. It is essentially the same. It spreads along the quartz network. This is how I communicate. I was told that these venues would gain us a greater bridge to a greater amount of people.
Excuse me. I'm
Yes.
so sorry.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. We understand viruses quite well. We have been affected by your fog that has been out there, this mind control buzz that's been out there. And no, we have not necessarily been severely injured by it. Your people more so, because we have a greater control of frequency, no offense intended, than some humans. So we notice that frequency fluctuations will fight this fog because it's actually dumbing people. So as you would say, or psionic dampening along with technology. So getting into a particular frequency flux is actually begins to form an immunity to the fog. So with that, excuse, him. Excuse, his body has a virus in it that is quite obstinate. He thinks it is actually mostly gone, but it is actually sitting within his chest cavity right in here. That's where it leached into his vocal cord. But it was also the fog that allowed a lessening of the immunity, by which then both the shingles came back and the cold came. You blame it on your grandson, but this had virtually nothing to do with him. This was actually in the environment around him, but it wasn't him. It was actually the fog that is lessening people's immunity to viruses. Therefore, people are having to get stuck on more medication. He was picking this up correctly by his angst surrounding pharmaceuticals. This is what they are trying to get people to do currently with some of this, and also the mind control as well. But it is also getting people to be more on a short leash, let's just say, a short leash, I should say. So I can actually go into questions if you like.
Yes. So, Redinami, given that you're in the Mississippi area, do your local people, are they running afoul of like deep underground military bases and things like that in the region? And then my follow-up question would be, um, have your people noticed a lessening of the strength of these elites who mess with both your people and the normal rest of the human population?
There is a greater immunity being formed by humans. It's not necessarily just a lessening, it's more of a attention focused difference. The factions in question are more focused on each other than the what they consider to be the whole cannon fodder in the center kind of thing. And yes, there are deep underground military bases. You call them domes that are actually beneath our feet at times in those in parts of rural and also urban Mississippi. we have noticed that it comes up mainly under the bigger cities, but it does leach out if they wish to remain even more secret out into nature. The way you tell that it is there, if you can't tell, if you can't feel the vibrations beneath your feet, that it might have, you might have a sense of volume beneath your feet or hollow space beneath your feet. You might be feeling a cave, but you're also feeling a base. If you feel vibrations from their trams, their trains, and also their vehicles, you will feel that the vibrations go upward and you will feel it on the surface. This was in Arizona. They felt this with the big drills that were going underneath the desert. People out in your extreme area, wilderness areas of Arizona, like your Saunders and all those other places, were feeling it quite heavily. But you will feel the vibration beneath your feet. Now, is there a lessening of certain things? Yes, I can honestly say there is, but people are gaining a greater immunity. Now, think of it this way. Say if there's a great amount of chemtrailing, let's just say if there's just this over amount, but also then say you take that away. What happens? You begin to gain a greater strength of yourself. You begin to become more immune. So therefore, if you get hit again, it's not as much. This is what you are experiencing. You're getting hit with some of the same veracity as before. It's just that once it was pulled away and brought back again, you gained a particular immunity to the poisons. If somebody keeps doing that, mind you, it won't affect you at all in time. This is actually the point why certain beings out there are allowing this, because of the fact that two reasons: they can't always stop it, and another reason is the fact that, you know, once you gain an immunity, you can't be controlled. It's not like it's always being completely willfully reduced. It's that you're becoming used to it. Also, there are factions out there that you would call them white hats, but at the same time, it's both some of the your military units out there are focused on each other and not necessarily you. Just like in your politics, you had your the people more focused on Trump and Biden versus that of the people, mainly the ones aiming at Trump. But in this instance, that is an example. The what I am speaking about is this. Say you have two factions fighting each other, and you have one leader of the faction going, "I'll show this faction. I will control the people this way and do this." And then in retaliation, the other one going, "Oh, you move my chess pieces, I'll move them back." This is essentially what is happening, and in the middle, people are paying for this. Now you have like during your hurricanes, you had factions that wanted to mine the lithium that was with in Asheville, and you had those types of resources there. This is also what was happening. This was a faction that wanted to get in on the deal real quickly, and they that's why they were cited being more brazen and out in the open. That's why there was that story of that helicopter pilot that was confronted by one of these people that was working supposedly for the government, but working literally for one of these factions, where he was trying to rescue an old woman and her husband, where he had to then go back for his co-pilot and the woman's husband, because he could only fit one person with him within the little helicopter. And this person with a badge stopped him, saying he'd be arrested if he tried to rescue anybody. Those are the people I'm talking about. This is what you're up against in Mississippi as well. It's not that they're going to set the forest on fire. They're actually attempting to get people to not notice things going on in the environment around them, so they can sneak around in the background, mine things, go in and out of cave openings that are there in and out of the wilderness, looking around for resources, looking around for aliens, looking around for anything that is within their purview of control. Or you have other factions that are not interested in aiming at the other ones, but they simply don't have as much choice because of the fact that they're trying to buffer them from you and yourselves. You have help out there that you don't realize. This is essentially what's going on.
Okay, and so are you seeing it sounds like you've got these forces that are fighting each other. Are you seeing like, or are your people taking note of underground bases either being destroyed utterly or flooded, or they're changing hands from, say, the black hats to the white hats and maybe even back to the black hats?
Yes, so they change hands. They know enough not to destroy resources. You'll have some moron that will pancake his small mountain base or something like that, so nobody else can have it. But that's actually very, very rare. They like either trading resources and places to each other, like basically playing a game of poker. Say that somebody gets a royal flush, they've just won another base or another territory or another mining right. Those are some of the assholes that do this. Then you have other ones that will try to play the game long enough to obtain a spot. And there is a certain honor code amongst them to a certain extent. If they lose, the other ones make them walk away. It's kind of like a high stakes poker game that in the Old West, where if you've come up with a royal flush, that's basically honored. Now, every now and again, you'll get a guy with a gun under the table, but that's essentially what goes on. The only reason some of the good guys are playing this is because they feel if they obtain enough resources, they can just not let the others come back and not play the game any longer. So this is essentially why this goes on. Now, do they flood places every now and again? Could they do this? Yes, but they value the resources more. And the good factions won't do this because they know it will damage property and kill people, just like what happened with Hurricane Milton and Helene. They do not play some of the good guys don't play the warfare or weather warfare game. They try to put an end to it. Then what happens is the bad guys will retaliate and dry their area out. Just like heard from somebody from Venice, Florida recently, where he saw some weather control going on where they were trying to dry the area out. This is one negative faction going after a more positive faction, because that faction was actually helping buffer other weather control in other areas. So you're seeing this. I say good and bad, but it's always not that black and white. Uh, you're just seeing vying for resources, but you're also seeing some that actually care versus ones that don't. So I suppose that's black and white, but that's how it is at the moment.
Now, have you seen with the new Trump administration or the reinstallation or inauguration of Trump last month? Are you seeing a change in or lessening in chemtrails or chemfog at all?
A little, but there is more in other areas. So depending on what faction controls what is with, like, say, your new doging that's going on and such, is there going to be a restructuring of your government? You bet. Is on Trump's side more of is there another faction there? Also, you bet. But at the same time, are there mutually beneficial agendas that help people in the process of this arm wrestle? Yes. It doesn't mean everyone within that particular faction is somebody you'd want to meet. But at the same time, with this, yes, you're going to see a reduction in that area, an increase in other things, but also you're going to see a restructuring of your government that people will be paying attention to more. You're going to see a downsizing in areas like that, the likes of which you've never seen before. This is based on a culmination of different timelines that were trying to favor where people were at frequency wise, even though it's per the individual how you jump timelines. In this culmination or mean average of timelines, your receding of different government and different expenditures is aiming more towards a united North America in time. And that's actually more sooner than you think that it is in this set of timelines of which we are speaking of now. I mean, yes, can that change drastically? Yes, but the mean average seems to be favoring that of a united North America. And I don't mean New World Order. This is more of a, like you say, your European Union. This will be more like that. But the way that goes is determined by the people. That you'll start to see more people stand up for more of their rights. You'll start to see people see this change in the government. Go, wait, we like it like this. We wish to keep it like this, and so you should. This is what you will start to begin to see more and more.
And is the bottom line, I guess I've always assumed this and I never have asked the question. When you look at the different cabal factions, all the infighting that they're doing, I just always assumed that the goal was who landed on the top of the mountain, meaning then who would be looked at in control of the earth,
Yes.
more of in a sense like that. I've assumed that always, but I never have asked the question of your perspective of that.
Yes, that is still unfortunately the Martian Germans, them and some of the Kabbalist factions out there. People screw these two up. They think Cabal and Mars are essentially the same thing. They are not. Your Kabbalists are more, the satanic cultists, and then you have the Martian Germans that are more the supposed master race, and they're the ones that use more of some of the weather control logistics and things of that nature, and some of the corporate nonsense. Then you have more the cultists and more the ones that do rituals and such. That is the Kabbalists. Now, do the Martian Germans have certain godlike rituals? Yes, but they aren't as, say, flamboyant as, say, some of the satanic groups. So you have all of them. Then you have the different corporations that also have some wizardry going on. They know when to do something, they know when not to do something. Your Kabbalists and different factions know when to, say, release a bit of misinformation or a bit of hostility in the news, and so do the Martian Germans. You're seeing a bit of back and forth between these two and multiple other factions. The Martian Germans, they operate a little bit out of Antarctica and a little bit out of Argentina and Mars and Sirius. But then you have the ones that are further up into the United States, different factions also up into Canada and down into Mexico. There are also allegiances to different, what you would call them, Anunnaki lords as well, and different families that they have either culminated and peoples they have cultivated, or some mentalities they cultivated in playing a large hedge betting of the gods. That's essentially where that goes back to. Think to your Jason and the Argonauts, where all the gods like Zeus and them were playing chess. This is essentially what has been going on for centuries. The time of your Dailian League is a perfect example in the Peloponnesian Wars. Think of also the 300 Spartans. That time was ripe with hedge betting. Whose army would dominate the most, and what would happen? What happened was all the Grecian nation states turned against the Persians. They united, and the aliens, which were Syrian based at the time, went, "Oh crap, humans figured us out." Anytime humans figured them out, you could tell because humans united. They united against a common enemy. These were the times that the supposed gods were figured out. But this is a clue. When you start to see a unity forming, just like with your Xanadu and the Tartarian Empire, what happened there was the mud flood. But with this won't happen again. By the way, there are too many other factors in play, and your Orions don't have the same power that they once did. This hence the mud flood. They caused the flood in the past, then they caused the second flood that was less pervasive than the mud flood, if you count that as a third flood. They can't do that again. The resources just are not present. So, with that said, they're trying to use other human factions to do their bidding to try to gain resources. And also the Lushing, you know about that, and you know about the Dummening. That's more Martian German. So, with that said, that is basically what the map looks like right now.
And then how much consideration is actually ever given? Because I wonder what the Cabal families think about, again, like we were talking about with the chemtrails. Humans are going to become immune to this. It's a part of the DNA skin suit that we're in to repair itself.
It takes time, but yes.
Right. So my thought is, and again, when humans again start to align and come together, there's that co-creative force that they then have come into being. So do any of the Kabbalist family look at that as far as there is a force coming with these people that we have to play nice with them? Or are some of them really that arrogant that they just don't see it even possible and happening?
You are actually right on the money, Joanna, with that. They are so arrogant that, yes, do they fear one day that could happen? Kind of like your Q continuum and Star Trek fearing humans would evolve. Yes, it's like that. But they are so arrogant that they don't even believe that it is close. They see some people, this shows how arrogant they are. They see some people with higher psionic capability, then they try to arrogantly and foolishly try to dumb them back down. There's just some people that cannot happen. It's incompatible. So that's an immunity factor gaining. Now, some can be dumbed back down. Some people voluntarily go back into it. Or they're always like that. You call them sheep or muggles, but there's actually not quite, again, that black and white. Everyone on Earth has been struck with this. Everyone on Earth has been probed, abducted, or poked in some form or fashion, unless you are extremely remote, and some remote areas that they haven't noticed you, or if you're strong enough to repel them. In this particular case, you are actually seeing military show up abducting people they see as having certain psionic capabilities. They're measuring to see where they are in their evolution, and trying to dumb it back down by either trying it chemically, with chemtrails, of course, but also psionics, but also injecting them, or they'll just cause one distraction after another in their life. Now, are you also dealing with factions that have time travel viewing and can see further ahead, a couple of years ahead? Yes, absolutely. That's the chronovisor technology. That is actually, there's one in the Vatican that you know about, that they have to use it on top of a temporal fracture to make it work properly, or a portal. Even though it's a view screen, you're viewing the frequency of the portal and the different time frames and timeline. They can use this to look ahead. This is what Montauk did too. They looked ahead. This is how you got the Trump on the escalator scene in The Simpsons from. This is exactly how you got this. So, with that said, sometimes per an individual, they can either calculate through a simulation what that person's going to do in their possible timelines and possible ways of doing things, and try to run them aground, or they're going to just continually roadblock until the person wants to give up themselves, or they'll continually badger and run their timeline out. Just like, say, a good example of this is in your Doctor Who program, The Weeping Angels, where they would literally take people's temporal or time energy that they said, or potential energy, and just basically they would just age to death, in a different time frame, and lose all their potential. That's even though that was a symbolic for the church taking someone's potential away from them through worship. That was a symbol of that. The symbol still stands because they are depicting some of the beings that actually look that way and do that to people. There are these angelic looking ones with wings that are actually more blonde-haired, blue-eyed reptilians with wings that have a little bit of bird DNA. That's more Orion creation and concoction and abomination, as far as I'm concerned. Somebody really liked their usage of their petri dish. So, with that said, this is what I see.
Now, so in terms of, uh, a lot of us humans, even though we voted for, 77 plus million of us voted for this incoming Trump administration, or, have him re-put back in that since he never really left, is our understanding. Um, how do your people feel about Elon Musk
Mm.
specifically?
There are narratives of being pursued there. Are we approving of the restructuring of your government? Absolutely, we are. This takes some of the heat off us too, so there's a mutually beneficial agenda there. Now, what I'm about to say, though, is this is more in the maybe category. There is, like, say, through Starlink, for instance, you have, through the name Starlink. This will make it possible to be like, say, the one ring to rule them all as far as internet goes, and this will give people access eventually to the galactic hub that's out there. It's a cleaner internet to basically give people more of a shoe-in with GF forces. He's kind of like a spokesperson, as it were, for that. But is that always a good thing? No. The object of the exercise, we want to see humans have a table, not a seat at the table out there, a seat, not being ruled or lorded over by. This is what's going on. Is there good and bad there? Is he part of what's going on in the narrative in the background? Yes. But are there benefits to this narrative? Also, yes. So this is how I see it.
It's like a double-edged sword. There are gains being made, but it's almost like, yes, on the one hand, he can help hasten our Star Trek future, but on the other hand, he himself might be trying to corner the market with his own corporate
Yes.
interests.
Yes, this is because you see, he's a philanthropist, no different than some of the others. You had your Bigelows that were talking about Skinwalker Ranch and Mars, and you have several others that you don't know about that are also vying for those same bids to basically like say if you have a trend online that you're following for business purposes, say you're following the current trend. They are all trying to follow the current trend. Musk is following the current trend. So if that trend is reaching out into the stars, great. If that trend looks like they will get the most resources out of aligning with the Galactic Federation or someone else, also great. But they're also vying for that same position too.
Okay, so they have their own narrow self-interest while trying to supposedly advance humanity's interests as a whole.
Yes, yes, of
I
course.
think it's one of those things that, we've always said, don't look at these people as the incoming savior white knights.
Right. And we don't. I don't.
No, right. So you just keep trying to say people, you don't get so comfortable with, a positive change that you feel you can relax and don't have to watch what's going on. What we have to do as a whole is watch more than we ever have to ensure that things are going, the ways that we want, because, no one really yet is free and clear. I did mention to Brian that we had been reported to us that maybe one of the ones who may legitimately, again, be a very good person trying to do really good things for humanity is RFK. That he's from a cabal family, absolutely from a cabal family with an agenda. But he kind of broke from that himself.
Mhm.
And as we've seen from some of his family members coming up in great disappointment, let's say, but he has stayed the course true to his genuine, authentic self,
Mhm.
and hopefully humanity will benefit from that.
Yes, it's like in your Van Helsing, where your Hugh Jackman, where he said about Frankenstein, where he goes, "Evil may have left its mark, evil may have touched it, but evil does not rule it." But this is exactly with RFK. There is a cabal faction there. Yes, and that name has left its mark on humanity, and may even be cursed to some degree. Some people say he said this as well, and even have magical ties in that area from ancient times as well. There's some royalty in there as well that also had some magical properties as well. Another faction that was fighting each other even in antiquity, and some royalty ties there. But with him, again, they may have left their mark, but evil does not rule him. This is why you are picking up that he is more genuine, because that's exactly what he is.
And in terms of where we're heading right now with the medical beds and stuff like that, people are saying that every major American city most has like two medical beds ready to go, and that the military is holding off on this. Are you aware of that technology being dispersed in humanity's hands or not?
Some of that is a carrot and a stick, but at the same time, does this technology exist? And is it being utilized on Earth as we speak? Yes, indeed it is. This is actually a mix between sound and light wave technology, and sometimes you see the tachyon type technology and stuff like that. It's based in this. It's also, you saw it very prevalently in your Stargate franchise with the sarcophagi. This is exactly what is being shown, is the medbed type technology. Uh, this is a culmination of also different races that were in the Galactic Federation that actually came up with this technology, like you see on Star Trek. Are these being used, and is the military holding this back? Yes and no. There's different factions holding this back. Would I depend my like existence on it being out? No, you have to act though as if it's not going to come out, but at the same time, I would recommend co-creating these technologies coming out en masse. Act as if these things are already have been part of your society, and act as though you already have access to this. Visualize this very heavily in your head. This will then tip the scales, timeline and temporally wise, to bring this technology out. Has this been being used to beat people over the head since the 1990s? Yes, this is regurgitated a number of times because they wanted to do two things: get people dependent on waiting for disclosure to even evolve or heal, or things of that nature, or they wanted people to be hanging on every word and waiting for this to come out. It's been happening since the mid 90s. Does it exist, and is it eventually going to come out? Yes. But yeah, are there corporations and military strong arms actually holding it back? Yes, there are.
Oh boy. Okay. Then in terms of this timeline and the full disclosure movement, do you have any projections in terms of not necessarily dates, but more like trigger events or things like that that your people are waiting for or expecting that kind of indicate that we're moving along towards our golden age?
What will trigger this golden age, as you call it? Do what you've done with the like with Hurricane Helene and Milton that time when your group came around and actually lessened the hurricanes from a 5 to a 3. This is what needs to be done with your golden age. The reason I say this is, well, this goes back to the conversation I said about a united North America. What type of situation do you want that to look like? Do you want that to be New World Order? Or do you want that to be a united unity of North America where your current laws are still intact and where your current freedoms are still intact? This also applies to the medical technology. Do you want this out? Well, I would hope the answer is yes. So that type of co-creation must take place to align the timelines properly on this particular subject. I don't mean like obsess on a particular date. I mean the walk the path as if it's currently going on. You then become that timeline for that particular golden age, if this makes sense. I know that sounds cliche, but I can give at least somewhat of a timetable where you should probably focus on in the beginnings of your 2030s, parts of your late 2040s and early 2050s. Now, this falls under your 100 years disclosure narrative, which it's supposed to be the end of the 2050s. Now, I'm not a fan myself of narratives, neither is he, neither is she. So, if you want this to speed up and in
Yeah.
the type of disclosure that you wish to see, not just the grays, not just some false deep state narrative of people within the agencies, but real open disclosure. Put your manifestation basically big boy panty on or big girl panties on essentially and walk that path as if this is already occurring. I can honestly say that within the next decade or so you will have had some form of ET contact. What that looks like depends on yourselves. Now, are we as a people trying to do the same and become ingrained into your brains and in your minds and your hearts? Yes, but it's not necessarily self-serving. It's more of a unity type event. We want to garner communications, but we also want our seat at the table. This is also why we communicate. We communicate mainly for the unity, but we wish to have a voice. We wish humanity to have a voice.
Um, are there, I know there's a Q&A where I'm getting asked a few questions, but are there any messages that your tribe or family in particular want to share with us?
Hmm. Yes, we do observe humanity within different communities, just like Segron's group said at Spirit Lake, and Shrayan and the rest of them. They said that they observe people where their beliefs are and when they are safe enough to communicate with them. I do urge people, we don't force belief systems to change. We do not force, or at least my tribe does not put their foot down, no pun intended. In some cases, some do put their foot down quite loudly, I might add, shaking the ground, uh, and leaving a massive footprint in their wake. I joke because those particular factions can hear me at the moment, or tribes can hear me. But the point is, we're not going to force a belief system on you. We're going to try to garner communications with you. If we see that the person is not ready, we're not, at least my tribe is not going to do ready or not, here I come. Other ones might be a little more brazen and go, ta-da, boo. But us, we're going to gently bring this on you. we may show ourselves to you if we think you are ready and we can sense that you're already on the verge of changing. Now, if there's another person, say if they're being a pain in the ass to us in particular, say if they're garnishing or garnering weapons, or if they are brandishing weapons, or if they are, say, doing something to our forests, or if they're doing something to our animals, or people that we care about. Are we going to step in and then spook them? Yes, we've done this in the past. It's also been quite efficient, and those people have unfortunately gone mentally catatonic. In some cases, have committed suicide over it because of the energies you see and showing ourselves to them. That was in a more of a self-defense move for us and the humans involved. But in normal circumstances, if you can call these normal circumstances, uh, we do not force it on people. We would much rather do it this way, and also eventually sit down with people and speak to them. Now, when we have appeared, we do have a certain vibration to us that some of those people that are more in the what's the term? Some of our people have used black-heartedness will go catatonic. Those people, we don't have any qualms about them going catatonic, but at all, because they've harmed us in the past. They've become servants to darkness in the past, even knowing or unknowing. But good people, we tend to leave them alone unless they are ready for this. So this, if you wish to communicate with our people, if you wish to come to, like, say, into the forests and the wilds of Mississippi and see my tribe, there are ground rules, and other tribes have probably said this. I know they've said this, but I will reiterate. Brandishing no weapons, knowing and from the heart space that you wish to communicate with us, and that it is from the heart space and not necessarily just for evidence. We will give evidence as we see fit. And we have done so for people in the past that we hate to use the terms worthy and unworthy. That's not what's like saying have and have not. But to say worthy in this aspect, we're saying open heart, open mind, and with the intention of communications. Now, will we help people also on a financial level too? Backing. You can call that as a hedge bet, so to speak, because they are in the right heart space. We will help those people. Like your conference, Brian, you have the backing of a lot of the tribes of the forest people in our moot, so to speak, for your
Thank
conference.
you.
So it was voted on by the we call it we would say nickname it the moot, like you heard in your Skyrim references, but a moot would be more of a gathering of different chieftains. So it's a or it's a Viking word for this, so or Scandinavian or Old Norse. So with that said, that is how we do things, just like we back the lifting and back GIC as well. So we see ones that are more in that genuine space. That is who we communicate with.
Thank you. Thank you for that. We did note that there were people who seemed were getting targeted in the days leading up to the event. It feels like we did get some targeting at the event, but we also had friendly protection,
Mhm.
and it could have been a lot worse. And then at the conclusion of our event, then there was like there's like worldwide like airplane travel mess up for like 4 days or so,
Yes.
and that was pretty wild. Um,
Yes, yes,
yep.
you can thank some of your remote viewers for some of this, some of the V2K operators, and you had a few drifty moles that were going around your conference as well that were on the periphery, and you had some military that was going in and out of the Serata at the time, and you guys noticed this at the very end when you stayed later, when they caused the blackout of the block area at the Serata. They stayed a day later than the conference, and they noticed a blackout where the whole area is blacked out. These people were messing around, and we made sure you guys noticed them. This is what was going on. So I can honestly say at this next one, you will not get the same, let's just say, bitch slap, as it were, as you did previously. They like to go after fledgling conferences to make sure that they don't succeed. They like to go after genuine unity to make sure it doesn't succeed. That's their modus operandi: divide, conquer, and control. You guys handled yourselves very well. And this next conference, well, you will see a more of an immunized reaction, more of a calmer reaction. And what he did with the law of one, and what you guys did with the law of one, and will do there, this speaks volumes to us because that also shows another level of spiritual wisdom, also strategic militaristic wisdom, because the proper magic and spells and incantations are being and invocations are being put in place, and also the devices and the symbols. With all of this in place, as well as your intention and genuineness, you will see far less and far significant targeting this time around.
That's really good because even though the attacks this last year were blunted, sometimes they did kind of score some hits that were there, because and that's where the people in our community, that immunization factor, it's kind of like sometimes you gotta get mugged or and fight off the mugger to be stronger the next time, and to be a harder target for the mugger to decide, maybe it's not worth it.
Yes, and also a tip: if you do feel this time around that you feel you're being targeted, and others that were there last time and it will be this time, here is a clue when your thoughts are not your own. Take that false thought and put it in a hypothetical. He did this while he was giving his lecture. When he started to stammer, when you took over the conversation, he put the V2K into its own hypothetical imagination box. He called it, or quantum box. Whereas they felt they were still attacking him, he displaced it and was continuing to talk. Visualize the displacement of the targeting to a nothing like void. They will think they're continuing to badger, even within the simulation, they'll think they're making you stammer. See, some of these people are rather stupid, and they're more thinking that you're going to be helpless to this and stammer and stutter, or even become violent, or become crazy, or even forget things, even lose your cool at times. This is what needs to be done. The annihilum, or the calm, always. Then you displace, kind of like a Vulcan in Star Trek displacing their emotions into onto seeing a storm on the horizon. I don't recommend all logic. That's stupid. Some beings do that out there, to each their own. Keep your emotions in balance, but also visualize the hypothetical, as he calls it, being attacked versus that of yourself. You'll begin to reduce the amount of your crazy thoughts and begin to reduce the amount of that targeting. Also wearing what he's wearing, the EMF gear, and also his devices do the same. Same with our statues included in that. So this is how I see it.
Did you detect any attacks on me during the event? Because it feels like for me, I feel relatively shielded, but I can see other people around me getting attacked. I'm just wondering how come, like, I don't, not that I'm asking for it, but I don't feel like I'm getting hit with V2K or stuff like that. Is it they're trying to insert thoughts and it's just like I'm just powering through them, or is it they're not even bothering and they're focusing on the people around me?
Yeah, they're focusing mainly on the people around you, but they have inserted things from time to time. But you seem to have a bit of a natural immunity. Also, the fact that you don't have no insult intended, you don't have the psionic range as others.
Right.
So
And that's because I'm blocked, or is it?
it's not a block per se. It's more of a necessity to be able to do what you do. You have to remain grounded within Midgard, or the earthly plane. Those that are dimensional, everyone's dimensionally based, but those that are more open to this have a different task than yourself. So with your tasks, you have to remain focused on that within an earthly sense, and not necessarily always seeing the things around you. That filter may fade, it may not, but at the current moment in time, well, no pun intended, your task bringing about this particular unity is what you are doing. You are being attacked on certain emotional levels, making you tired a little bit more, or making you slightly more emotional. But you're mainly seeing it to people around you because you have a slight higher immunity, but also the fact that you're not visually seeing things always out of the corner of your eye. You know when things are happening. You have an intuitive sense. But the ones that are seeing more are usually the ones that are getting badgered more.
Yeah, and I definitely noticed that people in our community who, especially if they're getting more recall, they have access to their altars. It's like, yes, they're able to see all this stuff and bring back this information, but they might not tend to be quite as grounded, and then that leaves them more vulnerable.
Yes, yes, grounding is absolutely necessary. He likes to say that he is grounded always, which is a great thing to understand and to believe. But if you have a higher psionic capability, you have to reaffirm the grounding more than the regular Joe, or in the case of yourself, Brian, one that has a natural aptitude for grounding, but also you have a sense of what you are basically here to do. Now, the ones that also have a jumbled sense of what to do are those that have been in the programs. They have been, you would say, mind fucked a little bit. But at the same time, their light shines, I don't want to, no insult intended, their light shines a bit differently with a psionic capability. And therefore, it's like those old paintings where the light was around the head. That's a higher psionic capability being shown, kind of like a halo. That's where this comes from. That and also technology that looked like that as well. That's more Enlil's territory and the Enuma Elish and the Sumerian mythology and all that, and Asgardian tech. But with this, and the Shining Ones as well, with their armor and tech, that they like to be boisterous and out there and ostentatious. We won't be slamming them at the moment, but with let's tall whites and fairies and all that stuff. But I know they're listening, so I'm poking at them a little bit. But with this, you or he, he's always having to reground, which is a great visualization where you are visualizing the roots going back down to the ground. He says walk barefoot on the land. And even people that are in a situation where they're nude or under the sun, that does work in some situations, not all of them, and especially societally. But also, we experience that because we're out in the open that way. But at the sand, our feet are on the ground. In situations also where you're in the ocean, like at the Serrata, that is a perfect location to buttress or buffer the this V2K. You're close to that pure white sand and the salt water. Entities don't really, some entities don't really have a prayer against that, except if they're seafaring, which you really didn't get a lot of there. So it was filtering out a lot of this. The seawater and going into the sea will ground you pretty much almost immediately if you're staying out there and you snorkeling and doing all those things. But find time during the conference to walk on the beach, in the water, hang out, have fun, do things of that. Learn to laugh, do all the little play things you do afterwards, like your little parties and things of that nature. This will assist very helpfully with some of the grounding, even with some of the what's the word I'm looking for? Curmudgeons that don't want to have any fun. I'm poking fun at them because I understand introverted and they call it Asperger's and autism, but the reader types, they don't necessarily want to mingle. But at the same time, if you're at least witnessing something fun, you are at least regrounding within the joyful and the laughter. This is highly recommended by us.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah, it's very much looking forward to getting back on the sands and in the water and trying some skimboarding on the waves this year. In terms of, I guess the timeline, it's because you're mentioning like 100-year timeline, and definitely a lot of us don't favor that. We want a 5-year timeline, if that. Like I want 5 years, not 100 years.
Yes.
Do you have any sense of what's happening with the secret space programs? I know that Sasquatch or the forest people, you're in touch with the Ponte. You yourselves are, both Starseed nations. Are you aware of what's happening with it? What I've been told is that the secret space programs have been given an ultimatum. Either reveal your existence to the surface humanity of Earth by 2027, I think it was, or you have to be exiled forever, and they're each making these decisions. Do you have any knowledge of that? Is that happening, and
Some of
which
it.
way are they leading?
Some of it is indeed happening, depending on, again, the faction that's running or the philanthropist that is running that particular or said program. There are some, like you had your Martian Germans and the Nachtwaffen, for instance, they will never bow. You have some that are U.S. military, like within your Air Force and Navy. They are more apt, and even some factions within your solar warden or different parts of your solar warden that may bow to this, that may want to.
But the Martian, I'm sorry, Rem Dam Rem Demani.
Read them out, yeah.
Um, you just said that the Martian Germans, they will never capitulate, so they're not going to reveal themselves. We don't hold our breath for like the Martian Germans to say, "Ta-da! Here we are. We've been running the world as for the human faction this whole time
They
since
will
World War."
try to peg anybody else but them. They will try to make everybody else, or if somebody has pegged them, like say people are talking about the Martian Germans now, they will try to change the subject. They will try to peg it. Oh, look at that evil faction over there. Look at that cabal faction. Look how bad those people are. They're projecting like crazy. So they will be one of the last ones that anybody would actually even find out about it unless you go into space and see where they're encamped. But other factions, like say parts of your solar warden, that's naval run. That's U.S. and Russian and Chinese naval run. You'll start to see some openings in that area. They will try to. The Martian Germans want to, if they have to reveal things, what they want to do is divert it to where their atrocities are not shown. Just like with your Space Force, for instance, to becoming a branch of the U.S. Armed Forces. Within that is like Secret Space Program Light, that they like to call it. They are trying to say, oh, we're looking to invent this or build this, like a moon base or one on Mars. We're going to Mars. Well, you're already on Mars. So they're
Right.
just basically saying, oh, what we want to do, anything they say they would want to do, they've already done it. That is actually a clue that the two of them have spoken about. Now, they will try to wipe the atrocities from the board. I'm not saying linger in those timelines. I'm not saying linger in the trauma. That is the last thing I would recommend. But should it be remembered? Yes, depending on the person, but should it be forgotten completely? Like that's the same as ripping down one of your statues that your BLM wants to do. That's wrong. It should be known. Just like with the Orion material, with those artifacts that were just found. That should be known, but at the same time, should some of the energies from this be accessed? No. But at the same time, humanity must know this material. They must know that these things took place, or it ends up creating a sea of ghosts in the end. You do not want this. This is why the whole COVID thing created a sea of ghosts, as he called it. Whereas there were so many ghosts that came to visit him in 2020 because of all the injustices. You would start to see that ether change on a dime towards the negative if certain things weren't revealed. Is it going to be forced out? That again, that depends on co-creation. But there are also others out there that you've never even seen their face that are sympathetic to this. Both also in the GF, which is the Galactic Federation, and also ET, as well as human military. There are even some that are helping you by keeping diligent records of this. They're playing kind of a Batman role in this particular thing, instance, or a Justice League type of role. Not an alliance. There's really no such thing as more of an alliance. That's more you co-creating that future. But there are people that would advocate and cheer on your behalf if you found all of this out. Now, will there be tribunals? Should there be? Yes. Will it be on the mass scale that people are expecting? Probably not, but you may see a few representatives of it out there that they'll throw under the bus. They've thrown a lot of their lower level Kabbalist types, satanic types under the bus. They're not above throwing a few more. But if you want the rest of this out, if you want this to collapse, say some of it to collapse by 2027, for instance, you have to start walking this path as if this is what is a foregone conclusion. This is the advice I can give in that area.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. It's also a little bit disheartening, the idea that um the other side, especially like the Mars Germans, are wanting to gloss over all their atrocities up to now. The idea that any of them would dodge justice. I mean, it's one thing for humanity, leadership, human leadership, to not be able to bring some of these secret space program elites to justice, but I'd expect the galactic court system would be able to drag the people into their system who ordered. I mean, I understand that the secret space programs, a lot of us, and myself, I'm told included, where we were used to create to do atrocities out there.
Hmm.
Like not just steal stuff from a civilization, but then like kill off as much of that civilization as we could.
Yes, and this has happened. And how do you know, Brian, that this hasn't already occurred in some areas? I said you just wouldn't see it, but it is actually, some things are indeed occurring because there's certain treaties and rules still in place. You're not actually seeing some of the justice, but it is on record somewhere. And I don't mean just a Kedgick, I mean in a legal sense. So there are some things going on. There is a legal system, and your legal system will account for different things after a while, such as telepathic intrusions, dreamtime intrusions, abductions. This will pay off in the end. But if you again want this to change and you want to see it visibly in front of mankind, that is a mass co-creative effort. The reason I said probably not is because I want your people to give the counterpoint, to basically say, no, I don't accept that. This is exactly what I was doing. But are there things going on in the galaxy somewhere where some things have been stopped and some piracy has been stopped? You bet. So there are some things that have happened. I do put it out there that your people get to see this. But at the same time, are there some things you're going to see, as far as a majority of them being mass arrested? No. But are you going to see some? Yes. Are you going to be able to move past this? Yes. And in time, where will your people see that certain justices have been served? Yes.
Okay. As long as justice is served.
Yes.
Yeah, I've been told that a lot of us who are in these secret space programs, we have a lot of money and resources coming due our way, like in the tens of millions for some of us.
Mm.
My question is I don't know if you're aware where on this timeline, if that's going to be sooner or later. I could tell you if I had access to say the 40 million or so that might be due to me, I'd get us the full disclosure by next year.
Yes, I also have to be the bearer of bad news. You probably won't see that type of compensation, but you do have backing out there and sympathy from outside resources. Will you see it from your government? No. But there outside resources that have sympathy towards this and will begin to aid you in other ways to start with. Absolutely, yes. So you're already starting to see this with even the inclination to move in this direction. I know that doesn't seem like much, but it is actually the beginning seeds of that type of reclaiming of those particular resources. Do I doubt some people could obtain that and find a way around this? No, I don't doubt that in the slightest. But from our perspective, I don't see it going down quite like that. Your kind may be able to turn the tides and change that, though.
Okay. Yeah, that would be nice. I think maybe with the astrology and the planets, things are gonna, with Mars coming out of retrograde soon, things will hopefully change up. We're trying to launch a platform to widen our reach so that we can co-create even better by reaching more of the masses with a message of disclosure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, that is highly recommended that resources be pooled, given the fact that there are forces out there trying to dwindle all of your resources and divide and conquer. Also, I hate to say this, but segregate is the wrong word. Uh, Weed the garden as far as certain energies go to make sure that you have the best energies you possibly can to spearhead this project. The best, I don't want to say the best of the best, that's that military garbage in that area. Best of the best meaning energetic and sharpness of not only just remembering, but you get what I'm trying to say. The truest information, the best that you can find in that area. This is highly recommended by our people that you tighten the circle in that respect. He would say tighter circle, deeper roots. This is the approach that you must take for that platform to succeed so you do not get interlopers and moles from the outside.
Right. Right. Yeah, a lot of people are sorting themselves out right now, uh, as being how aligned they are or are not with the goals of advancing the movement. Um,
Yes.
yeah. Do,
Mhm.
do you have any um information on, is Area 51 right now under white hat or black hat control? I heard it was temporarily under white hat, but now it might be under black hat control again because of a black goo infestation.
Yes, there were those accidents there. There were black goo and stuff being kept there, and still is. It's been moved to other areas and utilized by other factions. You will find that Area 51 has had different groups come and go from it for decades. Different engineering groups, different military groups, different ET groups, and it is not as inconspicuous as they would like, but they're using it more as cannon fodder right now for people's attention.
Mhm.
Uh, and they're actually operating in some more unknown spaces, like your Dolce, for instance. That's known, and also Denver Airport. All those are known, and also your Nellis. All those. They have no choice but to continue to use these, even though people know about them. But the cloudier they can make the information, the more convoluted they can make the information about these spaces, the better. What do people believe about them? Now, is that true that a dark hat or black hat is in control at the moment? You can honestly say that, but at the same time, were there others that would come, individuals that came and went and saw these different projects, like say your Bob Lazar, for instance, who saw some things that were happening there. Some have judged him to be somebody that was like more of a plant. That is not necessarily agreed by me in this instance because of the fact certain things are supposed to come out, regardless as if they're part of a narrative or not. Or if you're certain other broadcasting networks or bring things out, there are heavy, heavy narratives there, but at the same time, it's bringing the information out. Circle back around to Area 51 though for a minute. They did disclose in your Venom the last dance that you saw military leaving Area 51 in that particular movie. They were disclosing that different factions were leaving that site permanently and other ones were more in charge of it. So you were seeing things correctly, Brian. You were seeing an evacuation of one group and now the replacing of another, even though they showed it completely decommissioned in the movie. Yes, there are others that wanted to actually take up the space. Yes, but this happens like no differently than somebody changes socks or underwear or shirts, clothes. So this happens back and forth constantly.
Is that the same case with Montauk Camp Hero Army Base, or is that truly decommissioned?
It's never been decommissioned. They are still running time projects to this day. They are still running different experiments. One of your chronovisor type of technology, you call it the chair, it's still very much active at Camp Hero. But it's much deeper than the original base was. If you went into the chamber just underneath there, you would see cobwebs. It's actually underneath that down an elevator further down from there. But the experiments there continue to still be done because it's an energy intersection and it's a right place to do those particular experiments. Also, what is to the north of Montauk? He basically
Plum
showed us it's
Island,
Gardner's Island. So
Gardner's Mountain.
Gardner's Island are the time travel family. They have been around since practically time immemorial in your United States. They helped plan out how the United States would look. Like Jamestown, they discovered that the Gardners were there trying to keep John Smith away from, or Joseph Smith away from gaining any sort of leadership role. They were also responsible. You found out about what they did to Captain Kidd because Captain Kidd was actually going to get some political standing. They wanted to make him look bad. They worked together with other cabal factions. Who did he go to? He went to them for help. So what did they do? They kind of just passively went to the government and said, yeah, his treasure's over here. So with that said,
Although they took a lot of it.
well, they took a lot of it. And guess what they did with it? They created the Montauk Project eventually with it.
So,
You will never find Captain Kidd's full treasure because they have it. They used it to fund projects like Montauk later on. And they knew that was the past version of the Gardner family. Your current versions in that one would go back in time, were basically telling their ancestral counterparts, hey, stupid, gain resources, you have to build this. So this is also why you saw Gardner graves up the East Coast, up and down the East Coast, because that family has been humongous in the time travel projects. This is why he saw synchronicities galore surrounding the Gardners, because of the fact he would say that he was texting somebody about this type of incident when he heard an Antiques Roadshow show talk about Lester Gardner and photographing the Wright brothers at Kitty Hawk. And that was also hinting at you guys being on the East Coast too. So that was an actual spirit synchronicity there. But at the same time, that family was photographing that event. They were the photographers, but what also are camera lenses and screens, visors. What do photographs do? They show a snapshot in history. What does that do to people in the future? They see that frequency and energy of a time frame. What does that frequency entail? A fingerprint. Then what does that fingerprint do? Allows you to see other fingerprints just like it along a series of timelines and try to anchor series of events within a timeline. This is essentially what that family is still continuing to do. If you think Montauk is deserted, it is not. If you think Gardner Island is just some philanthropist nephew hanging out in some lawn chair looking out over the ocean, you're sorely mistaken. They're highly technologically advanced. They're also very vulnerable to being so arrogant and so thinking they've covered every temporal aspect. They don't know what co-creative ability really looks like. Just like your Miles Johnston said at the end of his lecture, uncreate them. This is what you have to uncreate.
Are they the ones who put the? I heard that there's a negative quantum computer AI underneath Montauk, and that was really running the projects. Do you know who put that there? What is it? What does it want?
Well, what it would do is he saw this in people's sessions where he saw their timeline with these little wax stamps on them that looked like a wax stamp from his perspective, where it was kind of harnessing someone's timeline and kind of weeding the garden or gardening or pruning, like you saw in your Loki show with the timelines. They were representing the Gardner family, and what they did is they trained an AI to do this for them, essentially for people's possible timelines, to make sure that they would run somebody aground. What he was seeing were those wax stamps were like what you would see in the 16 and 1700s, wax stamps on parchment and scrolls. You see even further back in your Middle Ages. Your Gardner family was even looked back even in the Middle Ages and beyond, even the biblical times. So just to see how far back they were and to see how even the Cabal origins and further into this time frame. Well, they created a computer there at Camp Hero to do this. I'm not saying it's the only one. I'm saying it's the prototype that started it. To basically calculate, they have one on the moon as well, but the Martian Germans wanted their own stake in this. So, and you have also other American, Chinese, and Russian and other German factions in there. But with them specifically, the computer, think of like the old timey computer that you'd see from a 50s sci-fi show where you fed some calculation into it with a punch card and it would pop out another punch card or pop out a set of scenarios. This is what it started out as, and then they started out building towards being able to time travel. Also, it had to do with the Philadelphia experiment up there by New York and such. That is essentially the same family doing all this, trying to run tests, just like Roswell, where the Martian Germans running tests on wormhole technology. That's what shredded the craft across the New Mexico desert. This wasn't aliens, and that they use aliens as a cover in that particular instance. Just like the Gardner family used their little meek type of personalities to the authorities about Captain Kidd. Oh no, yeah, his treasure's here. It's because they were basically playing the role of the pauper versus the role of the domineer, the domineering personality. So it's like Sun Tzu said, in the face of a strong enemy appear weak, in the face of a weak enemy appear strong. They do this. They didn't want authorities looking around Gardner Island before they had a chance to build their empire, all in the United States. So they played meek. Then, when they started to build this up, they began to plan how they could automate this process. Like what I said about the mental hypothetical that you could stop V2K with psionics, they did this with a computer. How can we automate this to where we don't have to be around, and this person would then run their energies down fighting something that was a computer? Just like in your Matrix, so like Morpheus says to Neo, they'll never be as fast or as strong as you. I can honestly say that about that computer. If you feel your timeline is being run aground and you've been in that project and you feel that's orbiting you like a moon, what it's doing is it's scanning anybody that's been in that project or sat in that chair and calculating their timeline to where things will. And he said this to yourself earlier today, in fact, whereas certain things that were simple for some are harder for others. This is a scanning of that particular tech, whereas they're anchoring in the timeline and basically making a mountain out of an anthill. Like, say something simple as just going to the store. All of a sudden, you've been out for 3.5 hours, and you've got nothing done. Or say you had somebody at the conference that said that she was like an hour and a half from her destination, and it took from sun up to sundown. That is a form of this type of distraction.
In terms of uh, do you know if I was in the Montauk Project at all?
You've grazed it. You've straddled the line between good and bad, and ugly, and all between. So have all of you in this scenario. But were you there operating things at Montauk? You came and went from there as not necessarily an observer, but you observed the projects, but you were that version of you was more fascinated with the tech. Were you really in good with the Gardner family? No. The Sverdlow family likes to take credit for a lot of the doorways and portals for this, but it was mainly the Gardner family that spearheaded this. And they brought people in or experts in from other areas to observe the sciences surrounding it and to observe how these things were done. Sometimes they would be basically telling the person, hey, we're in charge, look what we can do to your timeline. Sometimes they would even erase someone's timelines by going back and erasing their grandfather before their father was born, kind of thing. And their version in this timeline would die, that kind of thing, when they came back, or they get run over by a car or hit or die of a heart attack or a stroke or something. But with your case, they had you observing this not only as a warning to you who's in charge, but at the same time they were more or less, how could I put it, training you in certain aspects of what to do when you did not remember there, where it would be in your subconscious. They tried to run you aground in certain areas, but you've always, as I've said earlier, gained more of an immunity in that area. And I'm not saying you're perfect or any of you are perfect. All three of you here have been through some variation or variant of this type of situation where they've implanted something and you've surpassed that particular bit of programming, because no programming is absolute. Even if you have something in your head that is holding you in place that they put there, no programming is absolute. That's all I can say currently about this. But yes, you were there, but you didn't really work primarily there.
No, thank you. Well, what is the goal of the Gardner family? So they program this AI to direct the Montauk Project to, is it basically put us on a transhumanism timeline because they're a cabal family?
Not necessarily transhumanism timeline, trans timeline maybe, but transhumanism. They want to not only demonize people being able to use computers properly, but they also want people to be also use it improperly by giving away more of their humanity, becoming fully computerized, like some aliens did, kind of like the Borg in Star Trek. But there are positive choices that can be made with, say, an implant can be used for positive things. Like you say, you saw in your game Cyberpunk 2077, where they had computer parts in them, but they weren't fully dependent on it, kind of thing. it's kind of like that where people will just be allowed to make their choice. What they want people to not have, say, a singular identity like you see them currently. That's also part of the Eben agenda. That's what, because they're of no gender preference as well. But they want a divided culture. They want to be able to control one narrative, one timeline, and have not only heavily transhumanized people, but also have the ones that don't. They want them to not even know who they are or where they're from anymore. Kind of like childhood's end type of scenario where people didn't know what the demons or the demon aliens actually looked like. After a while, they didn't know the history. They want to wipe out history and recreate their own. Did they form the United States to actually have an illustrious history? Yes, but now they want to wipe that out. That cannot be allowed, and that is actually being fought against as we speak. But back on topic, do they want transhumanism? Yes, but at the same time, do they want more confusion? Also, yes.
Is anyone rounding them up? I mean, it sounds like they've done a lot of damage to humanity and the timeline in general. I mean, I imagine at a certain level that's outside of human court hands. Like, then does the galactic court system step in?
Not necessarily in this instance. This is more of a nature type of purview. You have the timelines that also coordinate themselves. You have time core as well, and you also have another variation of humanity that is helping out from a distant timeline or distant future that is also making sure that some of these time travel aspects are cleaned up. So they are being dealt with by humanity, but is from a distant timeline at the moment. You have, though they keep time core in check as well. They're literally sitting in your year 8100 at the moment. Uh, and they're looking back and exploring different aspects of where the timeline's skewed. And they are helping to clean this up and making sure other people know about this cleanup. The two of them and Bjorn, Ragnar's son, spoke to the future kind recently, and there's some of them really helping out. That's your Rendlesham Forest incident, uh, trying to make sure people know who the bad guys are and who are not. So with this, so it is humanity still stepping up, basically standing up for itself, and just what version or what the timeline.
Because I mean, it was kind of my understanding that one of the problems when you think about outside courts, Galactic Federation or whatever getting involved, they kind of look at Earth and human on human things or just Earthlings trying to figure it out.
Mhm.
So they don't really seem to get involved with these type of things. Now we've been told that there are certainly others watching that will not allow certain things to occur, like a true extinction, where they're going in and they're going to get rid of half of the society or anything. That's not going to be allowed.
That would be intervened on, yeah.
Right. But as far as these other issues that are going on where it's human on human kind of stuff, that they're really not, they're letting humanity sort itself out.
And the future kind count because they are humans. And also humans in other timelines are helping you out as well. The Galactic Federation even sees the Orion insurgency as human on human because they're a mutated version of humanity from the multiverse. And that they aren't essentially alien. But even though they have their seat on the council, they have unfortunately woven themselves into the temporal patterning. So this has to be delicately dealt with.
Hmm.
Does
I think that's it for my questions for now. I think we did a
did a
pretty
lot.
good. Yeah, we covered a lot. I know I'll have follow-up questions as we develop. Like hopefully it'll be a couple weeks from now, and I'll be saying we'll be talking about how all the chemtrails and chemfog is gone,
yeah,
and so that's what I'm really hoping for.
as I've
And
said, say that it's a foregone conclusion.
Yes.
Always exist as if it's a foregone conclusion.
Yes, we'll track that timeline manifested.
Yes.
Yeah. So I want to thank you for your time, Rem Demani. Actually, there's one more question I was going to ask. Are your people familiar with a more positive Draco-oriented queen named Her Highness Rumlamvira?
Positive is kind of a strong word, not as belligerent. would be.
There you go. Coming from the dark to the light compared to her brethren.
Yes, it is not as belligerent. Let's just put it that way. Draco always have an air of arrogance to them, regardless of whether they're free or not free. Not free is preferable, because they're more, they can be negotiated with a lot easier, not being harnessed to the black goo. But at the same time, they still have their way. They're still caught in their ways. But do we hope that that changes? Absolutely so. But yeah, I would have to say, is she amicable, negotiating with? No, but at the same time, is she completely 100% evil? No. But is she one that I would still invite in? No. But is she like the black goo-ridden ones? No.
Okay. So is there, I mean, I guess my question is would humanity possibly benefit by trying to ally with her faction to the point where we're trying to help her rid the draconians of black goo?
I would have to say no to this. Do you want to co-create that they are free from them? Absolutely. But would I align with any of them? No. Uh, Co-create again with the whole foregone conclusion thing? Yes. But aligning with any of them currently, I would say that is not my recommendation at this time.
Okay. No, that's helpful.
Yeah.
On the one hand, we're trying to find allies and move forward on a practical standpoint, but on the other hand, we don't want to compromise ourselves in any way.
Yes. Yes, that's exactly. You don't want to give consent because they would view this as consent. They love to write contracts, even in their free form. So at the same time, you don't want to give consent, but at the same time, do you want the black goo to be faded out of existence? Absolutely. Even within their its servants. So I will detach at this moment in time because you're having difficulty. So breathing the air around you. So yes, this is unfortunately what happens also with an energy enriched environment, even an orgone enriched environment. It can rid you of viruses. But at the same time, as those are speeding through, they will act slightly more chaotic before they burn out. So this is what's going on with the energy currently. So
Coughing it out.
coughing it out, yeah, and it would be more so in a more energetically pure environment. Even though that's healing, it will still don't know what it won't know what to do because it came from a slightly lesser or slower or lower moving vibratory state. So because of the nature of the virus. So I will detach at this current moment in time. Thank you very much for having me on.
Thank you.
I will, and my brethren will definitely return for future conversations. So thank you very much and blessings to all. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I heard you choking several times there. But, no, but
I was like, oh, please let me get through this.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I can feel the tickle forming in my throat too. But the one that when he comes through, when we know a Titan by the name of Chrome, and when he comes through, his energy is so like fast that if you have like some respiratory issue of some kind, it gets worse. He doesn't mean for that to happen, but it's that he's huge. He's like 150 feet tall, and he's in a different dimensional state altogether. He is the one they mentioned in Conan, Crom. So
Crom is from Conan.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and he's the whole River of Steel, the whole bit. So yeah, at some point we'll have to have a show where Brian, you're talking to him, but
That'd be great. Yeah. I'm a huge Conan fan. And
yeah, he was
Frank
there.
Frazetta.
Yeah, he was there through that whole thing, and he said Conan was accurate to a certain degree with that. So the Riddle of Steel, the alchemy, whole bit. So yeah, it's very interesting. He comes through with a very strong Scandinavian accent when I channel him. So yeah, I can't even mimic it. He comes through and it's really strong. So with the old former Atlantean tongue. So it's very interesting. So yeah, we thank Radami for coming in. That I had never spoken to him before now, but yeah, he's an ambassador for them for that part of Mississippi. And they do have ambassadors all over the country. They have people that are kind of newbies. We've talked to a few of them. They have elders, of course. They have the Anakam elders. They have soldier warriors, and they have just the regular people in between. So the ambassadors, it's very interesting when an ambassador reaches out because then they're basically giving you a greater swath of information. like that.
Yeah, he's very even toned and very communicative and helpful.
That's how he
Like,
was trained to basically come forward, and Isaac just called him the Walmart greeter of the forest people there. So
right.
I knew he couldn't go a while without doing so. But hopefully he comes through on a show you're on sometime, then you'll get to talk directly to him. But it's like you'll probably be sorry for that one. But anyway, because yeah, he's Beavis and Butthead pretty much. So
I thought Isaac came through one time already, or was it wasn't Isaac, or was it someone else?
it was someone else. You haven't actually talked directly to him yet, but
Okay, okay.
yeah, he'll come through. He talks quickly when he talks, and he cracks jokes and things of that nature. So toilet humor, South Park, Beavis and Butthead. But any of that, so I think this is a good spot where we can take this
Yep,
show out.
yep.
Joanna, do you have anything else aside from your coughing fits?
Nope, and I
Okay.
hope everyone enjoyed it.
Okay,
Yeah.
Brian,
Thank you, everyone.
yeah.
No, I'm gonna take my wife out to either take her out to Valentine's Day dinner, or I'm gonna cook Valentine's Day dinner. We'll see if we're able to score reservations or not in our one horse town here, which is beautiful. But yeah, the dining options are more limited. So
Yeah.
I hope you two have a great happy Valentine's Day as well.
Yes, thank you. And everybody else, this is being recorded on Valentine's Day, but hopefully you had one by the time you see this. So thank you, everybody. And now this is where I close the circle within true benevolence and no conflicting agendas at this moment in time. So thank you, everybody. Bye-bye now.